Hello, everyone. I would like to speak to you guys about composition of functions. A composition function. Well, first off, the word composition, that means a mixture, of putting together various elements and making something whole. And one of the key things that we often or can often think of, is composing music. And with music, it can be something as simple as composing music for a single instrument like a guitar or piano, putting those notes together to where they go together. Or it can be so extremely complex as such as composing a symphony to where you have all the musical instruments and oftentimes the same musical instrument except playing different notes. So very complex. And that's the purpose of composite functions, is being able to talk and visualize and explain everyday occurrences and how they interrelate. Examples of that are weather in the financial market. For instance, weather, just let's say we just talk about temperature. Temperature is based on humidity and wind, was it cloud cover, angle of the sun, so many different things, just to be able to describe, okay, this is how it actually feels whenever you're outside. And to be able to have that, we take some composition functions and create algorithms to be able to predict temperature throughout the week. So with that being said, composition function notation is like this. This is an open circle. Okay. So F open circle G. We use F and G just for these representations to show there are two different functions that we're dealing with. And this is a function, and basically one function goes into another function. So using f of x and g of x, what I'm saying is I have the function f of x and I'm going to place g of x into it in lieu of x. So I have f of g of x. And this is the notation that I prefer because it helps me mentally picture what I need to do. So for my composition of functions of f and g of x, this is how my brain likes to see it. Either one is correct. This simply says f of g of x. And in looking at a composition of functions, this should make sense, but sometimes you have to write it out and think about it. X is my initial input. It is the domain of g. I plug x into g and I get an output of g of x, which that makes sense from the other functions that we've done. You have input, you get output. You have domain, then you have range. But then my g of x then becomes input, therefore it is the domain of f because I'm inputting it into f, and then I get output f of x. So initial domain, initial input, final output, final range. So let's look at an example and be able to see this. What I have here are two functions, and I want to find the composition of the functions. So this is my notation, and how I like to view it is like this. So what I know is I'm going to take g of x and I'm going to plug it into x in f of x. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to place it in there. So 2 times, and then I'm going to insert g of x instead of x. Now I'm left with simplifying my expression through distribution, combining like terms. This is my equation for my composition of functions for f and g. So let's take this and evaluate it. Okay. I'm given an initial input of 7. So I want to know whenever my composition function, my input is 7, what is my output? I simply replace my x values in my function with the, the numeric value of 7. That is my output. Again, just refresher, this is actually a coordinate that I have. This was input, this was output. This is x, this is y. And we can also solve it one other way. Neither way is correct. Just like any job that you do, any work, you do the one that is going to be quicker for you. Without cutting corners, without getting the wrong answer, you do the one that's quickest. So I know that how I view this is f of g of x. So what I need to work first is g of x, and then after I get that output, I plug it into f of x and solve. So where I'll begin is I'll begin here. Let's see, 36. Okay, this right here was input, and how we viewed that is the domain of G. Okay, this here, for where we're at right now, is output. It is the range of G. What it's getting ready to become, though, is input, because I'm going to plug that in to f of x. So this is also input, which is the domain of f. I want to write. Same answers. This right here is my final output. And as you can see, I've worked it both ways, and it depends upon which way you can see it and how the question is asked also. Guys, please continue to watch your videos from the publisher. Structure and critically think about your homework problems whenever you solve them. Just because you work all your homework problems doesn't mean that you know what you're doing or how to work them. So if you have to, go back and rework them. But again, make sure that you're structuring your work and you're repeating how you work the problem. Good luck with your homework.